Thanks for tuning in to another All the Feelings joint.
Want to skip those pesky ads and get early access?
Become a member at allthefeelings.fun/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
Jazz.
All the Feelings presents
Still Adulting.
this episode.
Money lending and thank you notes.
Hello and welcome back to All the Feelings, Still Adulting. I am one of your hosts, Tommy Mess III, and with me is who?
Pete Wright.
Ugh, Pete Wright.
I know. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's episode 5 of this fine season of Grab Bag of Topics around Adulton. Tom, Adulton. What? That was fantastic.
Oh my gosh! I see your bindle. You got a little corn husk in your mouth. That's fantastic.
I need to know, Tom, just as a check-in, how are you feeling about lessons learned so far this season about your journey with adulting? Have you learned something? Do you feel like you're a better person for these conversations?
Absolutely, very much so. But I'm so dumb that I've learned it, but it hasn't sunk in. And so I was doing, this is an absolute true story. I was doing laundry and it's on the second floor of my building, even though I live on the first floor because the first floor washer doesn't work very well. And I took all of my clothes and I put it in the dryer and I was like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I can't even do this. And I went all the way downstairs and back into my apartment and pet my dog and opened my cabinet to get what?
The fabric softener
that I threw away weeks ago. So it's like I'm learning, but it's still a growing pains situation.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. It takes a while for these things to install.
Yeah.
So this is really good. Well, I'm excited about today, mostly because this is one where I have a topic that I truly don't execute well.
You've been
you have a
topic.
Yeah. And your topic is a topic I don't have any experience with. So this was a lot of research and a lot of prep for me, just emotionally, vulnerability, Yeah. So I'm ready to go. And I think with that, I think you're going first.
I'll take it away. Has anyone ever said that? I'll take it away. All right, here we go.
Subset 1.
Lending money to friends.
Pete, I have a short tale to tell you about a family member of mine. And Pete, I have to warn you ahead of time. This tale is harrowing. Okay. Everybody drink.
I'm so glad. I didn't know if you wanted me to say it. I was just so excited.
Sure. Yeah, no, if I don't say harrowing once an episode, an angel loses its wings. Here we go. This involves one of my 900 cousins that live in the South. This cousin will remain nameless, but I can reveal that she is a she, and something happened years ago to her while she was attending a Christian university. She was approached by someone at the school, and they started up a friendship of sorts. And this new friend, after a few weeks, asked for a favor. He needed to borrow some money. Apparently, a family member of his in another state had passed away, and they had left some valuables to him in their will. I don't remember what the valuables were. But this guy said he needed to borrow money from my cousin to have the valuables shipped to him. And then as soon as they had arrived, he'd have them appraised and then would be able to sell them and pay my cousin back with interest once he sold the goods. Fair enough. He only asked for a small amount of money because he was able to front the rest. But then in a turn of events that can only be described as, what is the word? Harrowing. He saw her the next week and reluctantly explained he had mistaken the amount needed to cover the shipping. It was much higher than he originally thought. All of this is true. But on the good side, the valuables, it turned out, were also much more valuable than he had originally been told. And so, hat in hand, he asked my cousin to loan him a considerably larger amount of money, but with the promise that with the windfall he would be receiving was big enough he could pay my cousin back double what she loaned him. Everybody wins, Pete. There's not a downside to any of this. My cousin was reluctant, but incredibly kind. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's just this weird part of the story that this is a Christian university. It's probably a very trusting, virtuous place. And she loaned him the rest of the money and waited for news about the shipping.
How many commas are we talking? Can you give me that? How many commas in the number?
How much money?
Yeah.
Thousands. I think maybe 1,500, if I remember correctly.
Okay. All right, good.
So not like $1 zillion, but for a
college student,
an enormous amount of money. That was sort of
money.
like her stuff. but she was helping
Got it.
someone out, and to be honest, she was going to get a reward in effect, and she wanted some of that money to help cover whatever Bibles. I don't know. Either way, anyways, the valuables came in. The guy appraised them. They were for a ton of money, and she got double her money back, and that's it. So, Pete,
which is not how the story.
That's
went,
not how it
I
went.
imagine.
No.
I think
you can probably guess that she never saw the young man again. And it turned out that he was apparently not even a registered student there. He just picked her out of a group. What do we know? Do we know what just happened? This scheme, this scam, you could say, under another name. And I know you know what it is if you can think of it.
Well, all I'm thinking about is like the prince.
The Nigerian prince?
The Nigerian prince. Yeah.
It's
I'm sure there's another name.
It's the Nigerian prince. This is the Spanish prisoner.
The Spanish prisoner, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
For those that don't know, this is one of the oldest cons in history. As I said, it dates back to the early 19th century. The original scam, it's called the Spanish prisoner because it involved getting a mark to loan funds to release a rich man imprisoned in Spain with the promise of a great reward once the man was released. But of course, there was no Spanish prisoner in the first place. A more recent version of this con, like you just said, this was in my notes and you skipped ahead, which is great. It's the Nigerian prince scam, where you help free someone from Nigeria, you'll be handsomely rewarded. And then it turns out there is no Nigeria. No, there is a Nigeria, but there's just no prince. Why am I telling you this tale, Pete?
Okay. I'll bet it has something to do. I'm going to answer you with the fact that you're, no, there will be no rhetoricals today.
Yeah, go ahead.
That your cousin came to some member of the family, maybe you, and said, I'm in trouble. Can somebody loan me money?
Oh, that would have been a great segue. No. I'm gonna stop asking you things because you're better at this than I am. No, I'm just telling you this tale because this is an extreme case of lending money to friends or family gone horribly wrong. And I don't believe most of us are going to be at risk of being befriended and scammed by faux Christian loan sharks. That's not what this segment is about. Okay. But lending money to even your closest friends can be very risky, both financially and emotionally. And that's what this segment's about. It's about the idea of, as an adult, lending money to friends or family. When I say it's risky, to wit, in 2022, Bank of America, that's my bank, Pete. I mean, I don't own it, but that's where I go.
Yeah.
They interviewed all of their customers, and more than half of their consumers had seen a friendship end over money owed. Over half.
Wow.
And more than 2 in 5, so that's 43% of Americans would be willing to end a friendship with a friend for not paying them back. And nearly 3/4 of that said $500. That's the line.
Wow.
2 in 5. So I don't like that. But I also don't like the idea that lending money to friends is so, I don't know what the word is. I guess I just have to go with harrowing. But of course, it's hard to say no to a friend in need. And therein lies the trouble.
Sure.
So before we go any further, I'm going to roll the dice and put the mic to you again, even though you're more articulate and better at things. It sounds like in your preamble, the answer is no, but have you lent money to friends or family in the past? And if you have, or if you haven't, do you have any hard and fast rules about it?
Well, I have never.
And let's just say, this isn't like money for a dinner. This is more money.
Yes.
Like in the hundreds or something.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have never lent money to friends or family. I have been on the receiving end of a loan from family. Oh. And I don't know if it's, truth of it is, I got myself in college, in some credit card trouble, and I needed to fix that quick. And so I left the country. I moved to Korea where I could make some good cash and have a favorable tax advantage. And my dad loaned me the money that it needed to pay off those debts, and I paid him back. And it involved, I literally gave him my car. I said, sell my car. It's all yours.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I was not needing it. I was in Korea. And so that was what got me to Korea. All the other Korea stories are amazing.
There was no car. It was the Spanish prisoner car.
It was the Spanish car.
Yeah.
No. And so that, that was the lesson that I got out of that as a 21-year-old was, dear God, man, don't get yourself in that situation again. It's the worst.
Because did it put a strain on you and your father? Like, what was that emotional cost like?
Yeah, I mean, it did, of course, because there was always that giant number hanging over my head until I paid it off. And I hated that because it was wrapped in, or I should say, it pulled the veil back on a great both insecurity and shame for having let myself get into this situation, and a little bit of like, what didn't you teach me, man, that allowed me to get into this situation?
A little bit of spiteful feelings.
Yeah, a little bit of spite. And so I did, for that reason alone, knowing that it is all my issue, I still very much at the time felt like, I guess we're in it together.
Sure.
And I didn't, so
meaning you both contributed to this problem.
Yeah.
In effect. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Which is, let me say again, not true. It
Right.
was all me, and I was narcissistically deflecting the real issue, and it's not great. So, lessons learned all around. And I paid that off over a couple of years, and it was a significant amount of money. And and I was just very lucky to find a position that would allow me to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
In another country.
In another country.
That's pretty severe.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to tell this story, but my story pales so much in comparison to yours. I want to now tell it to make reduce my life as much as possible. I once had to borrow money in college from my dad because I got in trouble with Columbia House. That's how old I am. This is back in the days when they would give you a mailer and you could pick 6 albums for a penny, but then you had to buy full price. And then they would just send you albums, and it was impossible to return them, and you didn't want the albums that they sent. And I just completely ostriched it, and I just had a pile of
sending albums.
Yeah, and they just kept sending me, and it was probably just like Sounds of the Forest. Like, it was like no one would want these albums, just bird calls. And finally, they sent me a letter, and that's when I learned what collections departments were. I'd never been in a situation with collections departments, and they were like, hey, remember the physical property we kept sending you? You have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I finally had to ask my dad, and this was maybe $200. It wasn't a lot, but I just didn't have any of the money at that point. Anyway, so that was a big lesson. Okay, well, I have actually lent a fair amount of money to friends, never to family.
Okay.
But especially during the first decade or so after moving to LA. And I'm going to go ahead and say, to take away any suspense, I've been very lucky because I've always ultimately been paid back. Not when I was exactly supposed to, but eventually, and we'll get to that. There was one big hiccup. When it started, and these are not enormous amounts of money, but I found out that a friend had been falling behind, and he was using... what is it called when you're pay me before I get paid, and then I'll give you some money and you give me money? What? Hold on.
Well,
let me try that again. Oh, a check advance, paycheck advance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a thing? Yeah. And so he was paying interest or a commission to a company because he just needed the money a little bit. It was something to do with his bills and rent. It just wasn't lining up. He had a steady income, but it just wasn't lining up. And so
that interest is, God, what's the word?
It starts with
harrowing. It's harrowing. Yeah.
And so I sort of became his occasional check advance company, but I just wouldn't charge him any money for it. Like, there was no commission. I wasn't making any profit for it. And it was a very steady schedule. We did this for a while. I had the extra money that I could help him, and I didn't want to have him just throw money away to make his life work. But again, it's important to know that it wasn't a ton of money, and he had a weekly paycheck coming in. So it's not like I was
just money in, money out, money in, money out. It was, you were a bank, the bank of time.
I was, yes, I did break his legs. And then so that's the obvious number one rule about this is don't give out money that you can't afford. Yes. It's not selfish to tell a friend. I'm just talking about my rules. It's not selfish to tell a friend that money is tight right now, and it'll save strife for friendship in the long run, I looked up just to see if people were doing this, talking about this. I looked up posts on Reddit, Reddit, about lending friends money. And a lot of people were talking about, they were sad to say that when they would go out with their friends and see their friends, they were accidentally wallet scoping their friends who they lent money to. I think that was the phrase they used, meaning like they couldn't help but notice if the friend was going out a lot or buying a TV or something like that, feeling like you have the money to do that and not pay me back. And that's a really gross way to feel about your friends, but they were just having trouble not feeling that way. There was once when I had lent a different friend a considerable amount of money. We're talking about $1,400-$1,500.
Okay.
They had just had a really bad string of luck and they just needed some funds to get back on track. In a way, it was the same thing as I just need this to cover, and within 2 weeks, I will be back on track because I'll have my normal money. Unfortunately, things just kept happening. Not mistakes, but just things. Cars kept breaking down. Things kept breaking. They just needed stuff, and all the proposed deadlines were missed over and over. And I have to be honest, it got scary for me. Like I had to move funds around for lack
to
of a
make
better
sure
phrase.
you could pay your bills.
Correct. And by funds around, I mean South Korea. Like I just started putting things on my credit card. I started doing my own check advance. And ultimately, it was all paid back and the friendship wasn't affected, but it did make me internally change my way of thinking. And I came up with a new rule. And this is the rule. I know we're not a research podcast necessarily, but this is the rule that everybody says, all experts.
21% interest annualized.
They say, you can call it a loan, but just if it's with a friend, but just be prepared for it to be a gift.
A gift.
Only loan out the amount of money that you're willing to lose. If the friendship is the real priority, you have to say, okay, I'm saying goodbye to this money. And those week in, week out, I could lose some of that money. The larger amount of money I could not. So if you have that kind of rule, that can keep the emotion out of it. And that's because emotion is what makes the entire thing so hard. Is that one of the big things? Well, because you went through that with your dad. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's 100% it. And I don't think I had a sense of the gift loan balance. I think probably what I wanted was I wanted it to be a gift, and he did not. And
you kept being like, "Wow, thanks, Dad."
Thanks, Dad.
And he's like,
"We're good, right?" Yeah. No, really, we're good, right?
You give receipt after receipt after receipt. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, I find it really, I don't think that I'm an ingenerous person, right? I think that like if somebody were to come to me and say, I'm in real dire straits, like I could use a loan. In fact, now that I say this, oh my goodness, I have given a loan. And
what? Since we started talking?
Just now, I just did this. I just Venmo'd some money to
Nigeria?
A complete stranger. No, it was years ago, and we had a colleague, podcaster who ended up in some real dire straits and some medical debt, and we stepped up, and it was exactly that. We just considered it a gift, and we just said, this is what we have to do to help you pay your rent this month, so you have a place to heal. And and that was, but that's the only time I've ever done it. Like, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I'm still a real selfish SOB.
Yeah. All the feeling friends just immediately start like ripping up their ass.
I don't think people, I don't know why, but people do not, like, do people ask you, they come to you and say, Tom, I need some money. Give me some money and a cookie.
Not for a long time, but again, for the first like 10 years or so in LA, I was lucky enough to have a little bit more. And because I didn't have, I lived very cheaply. Yeah. And so I just didn't have, well, I guess none of us really had kids yet, but you know what I mean? I just didn't have dependents. I didn't have a girlfriend or anything like that. And so it just, the money was, I had enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's, and I had made it clear to people that I didn't want them to throw their money away on like a check advance if we could come up with a steady thing.
Yeah. So that's what I'm getting to. Like it sounds like there's a little dance that you're going through with people.
Yeah.
Like when you see people in your immediate circle who are struggling, you start a conversation with,
Correct.
You know what? That's crazy. We can be better about this. And maybe if I can help you, that would be a way to do it.
I try to, yeah, I bring it up. And I've had people that could profit from that have not. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had people say no. And I, at one point, got frustrated because I thought maybe it was about pride. And I don't care about pride if you're not eating well enough. But it might not be pride. It might just be like the knowledge of going down this road can be scary for a friendship. And maybe just not worth it. Another thing, it reminded me of when we were talking about a long time ago, bereavement, when someone is in trouble, either because they lost someone or medical things like you brought up. If you can't stretch it money-wise, there's other ways to assist friends during this time. You can bring them dinner or help them with take care, watch their kids. If you're able to, like, watch their kids for a night, if that saves money for a babysitter, or they can pick up more shifts at work if that's the kind of work that they're doing. There are other things to do, but overall, yeah, that's just the main rule: is consider it a gift.
I love it, and you are just such a like generous spirit. That is like it's. I feel like I just need to say this out loud. Like, your reputation is one of generosity. Like, that's
really,
is really, it's really delightful to hear you talk about this stuff this way, because that's just totally how I think all of us in your circle have seen you since we met. Yeah.
Well, it's mainly,
I don't know what you're going to do with that. I mean, I'm just waiting for your head to explode.
Well, I'm trying to get as much good feeling around me as possible, because I am still on the run from Columbia House. I didn't pay for a single Wham album. And so when Columbia House breaks down my front door, I'm coming to all y'all, and you're helping me pay off my cassettes, one in excess cassette at a time.
Columbia House, there is now one investigating agent left for Columbia House. And I don't know if he is definitely surviving on loans from friends and family, but by gum, he's going to find your place, Tom.
Yes. It is like the lamest Catch Me If You Can scenario in the entire world.
What kind of letters does Dracula get from his admirers?
Fang mail. What do snakes write at the bottom of their letters?
With love and hisses. Where do ghosts mail their letters?
The ghost office.
Here's the thing to know about me, and I say this with full awareness of what it probably reveals about my character. I have a box of thank you note cards in my desk drawer. They have been there for years. They are still in plastic wrap, not because I haven't needed them. I have needed them many times. Beautiful dinner, generous gift, a kindness I absolutely intend to acknowledge. The cards just sit there, pristine and accusatory, sealed inside their little cellophane tomb, waiting for a version of me that apparently does not exist. I knew this was expected of me. My parents tried to instill this in me. They had cards and the stamps and the true infrastructure. They modeled the behavior. I observed them modeling the behavior. I did not absorb it. Like a lot of things in adult life, I watched it happen and somehow assumed the skill would transfer by way of osmosis. It did not. Now, I want to be fair to myself here because it turns out this is not a new problem. Humans have been anxious about correspondence for a very, very long time. The Victorian era was so consumed with letter writing anxiety that publishers printed entire etiquette manuals just to manage the social pressure around proper correspondence. We're talking comprehensive rule books, and the rules? Magnificent, deranged, black ink only, the color most durable and tasteful on all occasions. Red ink? Never. Blue? Possibly. And that's just the ink. We haven't even gotten to paper thickness. Nothing, the guides warned, looked more, quote, mean and untidy than thin paper, because apparently your envelope was also a moral statement. My personal favorite, an 1890 etiquette book declared that bad spelling was an offense against society. Not a faux pas, not a slight rudeness, an offense against society. So if you're sitting at home feeling guilty about your unmailed thank you notes, congrats. The Victorians also considered you a criminal. But here's the part of history nobody talks about. Before 1840, if someone sent you a letter, you paid for it, not the sender. The recipient covered the postage, which means that for centuries, getting a thank you note was essentially receiving an invoice for someone's gratitude. Someone chose to thank you and then charged you for the privilege. Just let that settle in. The entire social contract of correspondence was, I appreciate you, and I will be billing you accordingly. It was only when the postage stamp was invented and suddenly the sender paid that thank you notes exploded in popularity, which tracks. It turns out acknowledgement flows more freely when it doesn't cost the recipient anything. And that, I think, is the point. The thank you note was never really about paper weight or ink color or the precise width of your mourning border. It was about saying, I registered what you did. You exist to me. Your effort didn't vanish into the void. The card is just the container. The content is, I see you. Wanna pay to be in a club just like those kooky proper Victorians? Just become a feeling friend today. For just $35, $25 renewing, you can become a valuable supporter of All the Feelings without writing a single letter. Plus, you'll get access to your very own members-only podcast feed, chock full of extended editions of our episodes, member-only episodes, our trailer archive, so much stuff. So jump in now, support the season, and know you're also supporting Pete and Tom and our stash of exotic inks and nibs that we're likely never going to use. Visit allthefeelings.fun to learn more, and thank you for your support. And on with the show.
Subset 2.
The fine art of correspondence.
Tom, it's my turn.
Oh boy.
Now, here's what's going to happen right now, just first off, and I need to prepare you because it's full of meta anxiety. One,
Okay.
I have prepared for you a quiz to test your knowledge of the rules and etiquette of correspondence, of the thank you note. Now, that's just one thing, because I don't know if you know any of the rules. You might just, this will be a complete slam dunk to you. Before we get into the proper content, the content proper, this quiz was also my first experience vibe coding.
What's
Do you know what that means?
No.
This is why I'm so
Vibe
excited.
coding.
Yes,
Okay.
I opened Claude, my AI coding assistant of
I've heard of
choice,
Claude. Yep.
and I said, hey, Claude, let's make an app. And we made a little web app that it takes all of my research and distills it down to true or false and multiple choice questions. And dear listener, if you are a member and you are watching the live stream, you would see Tom is actually looking at this app at the time. And
it looks for real.
We're going to go through it together.
Okay, I'm excited.
Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. All the feelings, still adulting. Thank you note etiquette, a quiz Tommy absolutely did not study for. True or false, Tom? If you thank someone in person when opening their gift, you're off the hook. No written note required.
Oh, true. I'm going to say yes, you do not need.
Let's see what the vibe-coded quiz says. Correct. If the gift was opened in front of the giver and you thank them verbally, etiquette gives you a pass, though sending one anyway never hurts.
Got it. Okay, so far so good.
We'll talk about that in a moment.
Okay.
You receive a beautiful wedding gift from your Aunt Carol, who lives across the country. What's the ideal window for sending a thank you note? A, within 24 hours. B, within 2 weeks. C, within 3 months. D, you have a full year. It's a wedding.
Huh. Not 24 hours, 2 weeks, 3 months. There's something about a full year that rings true, but is that how long you have to give a gift? I'm going to say within 3 months.
Let's see.
No!
Oh, not quite, Tom. False. The answer was B. The standard guidance is within 2 weeks. 1
2
week
weeks.
if you can manage it. The you have a year for weddings thing is a myth that has ended many a family relationship.
And that's the thing that I brought up, the myth.
Yes,
yeah, because I thought
exactly.
that there was something about a year. Oh, wow. Okay.
True or false? A heartfelt text message is now considered fully acceptable etiquette for thanking someone after a job interview. True or false?
Huh. Text message. Huh. I'm going to say false.
Correct. A text is still too casual for a job interview. Email is the acceptable modern minimum, and a handwritten note can actually tip the scales in your favor.
Also, how did I get my interviewer's phone number? That's the main reason. Like, that seems like I've done too much.
That is you don't text until after you have the job.
Yeah.
That I think is
I deliver a flower to their mailbox.
Yeah.
And like, okay.
But only in your mouth, and you wait by the mailbox. Number 4, you had a lovely dinner at a friend's home. What's the most appropriate way to say thank you? A, a quick text that night. Timeliness matters most. B, an email the next morning. C, a handwritten note within a few days. D, nothing. You brought the wine. That's basically a note.
Oh, man. Well, I know what I do, which is nothing. You brought wine. That's basically a note. But I'm going to say that the answer is probably, well, no, I'll say what I do.
Yeah.
And not as I think. I do nothing because I brought wine. Oh, no.
Not quite, Tom. For a
no.
dinner party at someone's home, a handwritten note is still the move. The wine was great and necessary, but it doesn't count as correspondence.
Oh.
You know,
what if the wine was called "Thank you very much for dinner. I love you," Angela?
Correspondence is not food. That's the lesson that we have here.
Okay.
Okay. How about this one? True or false? If too much time has passed, it's better to say nothing than to send a late thank you note.
Let me think, because I'm gonna from now on I'm gonna answer as I do, not as I think.
Excellent.
True. I think there's a statute of limitations, and you'll just come off as a weirdo. Damn it!
False. Wrong. This is a common paralysis trap. A late note is always better than no note. The longer you've waited, the more it will mean to the recipient. Think about that.
Makes sense. Sure.
Which of these does not need a handwritten thank you note by modern etiquette standards? A, a wedding gift. B, being a house guest for a weekend. C, a casual coffee paid for by a friend. D, a baby shower gift.
C with a bullet.
Okay, we're going to go for a casual coffee.
If I got a letter saying thank you for the coffee you bought me, I would freak out.
We would not be friends anymore.
Right. Yeah.
That is the correct answer. A casual coffee is low stakes enough that a verbal thank you or a quick text is fine. Everything else, get out those note cards. Next question. According to research, people who write gratitude letters feel better afterward, even if the letter is imperfect.
Sure. I would think so. True.
True. And
Yep.
this is the cruel irony. The thing we avoid because it feels awkward is the exact thing that puts us in a better mood. We are biologically outsmarting ourselves.
That's interesting.
You interviewed for a job at 2 p.m. When should your thank you email arrive? A,
so it's
within
we know it's not a
24
text.
hours. Yes. Within 24 hours, the next morning is fine. Within 12 hours, waiting in their inbox the next morning. Within a week, you don't want to seem desperate. D, from the parking lot immediately after, show enthusiasm.
I would do within waiting in their inbox the next morning. I would say B, within
Okay.
12 hours.
Within
That's what
12 hours.
and have done.
The answer
I'm
is
nailing it.
correct, Tom. Outstanding. 12 hours is the modern rule. If you met them in the afternoon, it should be waiting for them the next morning.
Yep.
Though please don't send it from the parking lot. Two more. In the Victorian era, the recipient of a letter paid the postage, not the sender.
Didn't we just talk about this?
This is the point of the quiz, Tom. Were
I
you
see.
listening to the Feeling Friends
Okay,
segment?
got it. Yes, the recipient pays the postage, not the sender.
That's absolutely true. Okay. And last, what does the word thank actually derive from? Multiple choice.
Oh.
A, the Latin gratis, meaning freely given. B, the Old English word for think. C, the French remercier, meaning to repay. Or D, the Norse word for debt.
Wow. Oh, boy. I'm going to say C, the French remercier, meaning to repay. Damn it.
This is what's interesting. Not quite. It comes from the Old English word for think. So a thank you note is literally just, I had a thought about you, and it was a good one. But that is
makes sense.
not, I would have before today said, oh, it's Latin gratis.
Right.
I've always associated those. And so here we are. Now,
Wow.
let us
How'd I
see
do?
your final score. 6 out of 10. You are, quote,
Yeah.
well-intentioned but imprecise. You have the feelings. The execution is a work in progress. Welcome to the show.
Well,
Tom,
thanks, Vibe Coding. That was exciting.
That was really a great experience. I can't wait to do it again. Tom, so let's talk a little bit more about, I'm going to get to the etiquette, like today's etiquette, because I'm telling you, in addition to some of those quiz questions, I learned some stuff today. I'm not good at correspondence. It just never installed for me and I'm just not fast at it. And I think etiquette has changed such that lets me off the hook in some interesting ways, but also I miss opportunities to deepen relationships because I am not performing my gratitude well enough, right? And I say that intentionally because it falls into the paralysis of perfectionism for me that it's not that I don't feel grateful. I feel very grateful when people do nice things to me. The problem is that I feel so grateful that I always find I should express it perfectly. If I can't express it perfectly, I should just not do it. And from the outside, that looks like I'm not grateful at all, that's the seed of the cruel irony. And as I believe it or not, like there is research that says, the research found that this is true, and they should have called it the Pete problem, and they didn't. They named it something different. A study published in Psychological Science found that people still struggle with thank you notes, specifically because they feel awkward about expressing gratitude in a way that will be appreciated by the receiver. We're so worried about the landing that we never take off.
Right.
What is your experience with thank you notes? You probably do this really well.
I did, and I have stopped. It has been replaced by a thank you text. But I used to really pride myself whenever I would make a short film I would write
Yeah.
a handwritten card to every single person on the crew and cast. When I started Young Storytellers, I would write it. This is before collaborative, so we had 12 different mentors, plus a school liaison, plus the principal. I would write notes to all of them.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of a part of my identity. And then my handwriting got worse and worse. my hands started hurting, and and that coincided with looking around and seeing no one else is doing this, and I got kind of like that, a slightly different version but the same paralysis. I got self-conscious of like,
Yeah.
am I coming off as a weirdo? No. When was the last time I got a card for anything? Never.
Yeah.
And so why am I working so hard? Because it kind of takes forever.
Yeah. Right. It is I mean, I'm so glad you brought up handwriting too, because that was actually my next point. Was part of my handwriting shame is, I mean, it's just bad. My handwriting is bad. It's always been bad. It's a mix. I think there was a time in college, we had a mutual friend who was in the architecture program, and his handwriting was exquisite. And it was that architecture handwriting. You know who I'm talking about. I mean,
I think I do. And I love a good handwriting. When you look at a handwriting and you're like, that could be a font.
yes.
That's actually like legitimately attractive to me.
Me too. Absolutely true. And I tried to do that, but it's like you start a thing and you don't finish a thing, and so it only gets like halfway instilled in your identity. And so my handwriting is a mix of perfect consonants and very sloppy vowels. And I go back and forth between capital letters and lowercase letters.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I do that too.
it's chaos. My handwriting is an agent of chaos. And so that's one of the things that's held me back. And here's another thing about those kooky Victorians. They had an entire industry of anxiety built around this. Victorian letter writing guides warned that anyone could read a letter and make inferences about its author. The paper you choose was a moral statement. Bad spelling was an offense against society, as we have discussed. They told you, through teaching you how to be a better correspondent, how to judge others who were not.
Missing the point completely.
Right?
I love Victorian society. What a nightmare.
So I think this is so funny that correspondence is a legacy anxiety that we've inherited from like 150 years of being told that our penmanship makes us look like criminals.
And they were like using quills probably.
Yeah.
So it was terrible. Yeah.
Right. So this is where, I mean, we're long in the tooth about this. People get it. I just want to talk about the etiquette today, because this is like, what is it that we've learned from the quiz and from the research about how we should be managing ourselves today? I think that's really useful from an adulting perspective. So when the rules are unclear, generally, anxious people do nothing. And that is a strategy, and it is not a good one. So here we go. The short version. Less than a decade ago, expressing gratitude with anything other than a handwritten thank you note was considered less than gracious. Less than a decade ago. Like just pre-pandemic, okay? Today, etiquette has blissfully evolved. A text, an email, a phone call, or just saying thanks in person can all communicate sincere gratitude depending on the situation. The goal now is matching the method to the moment. That's the rule, is your method of gratitude matching the moment of gratitude. So
what does that
mean?
A
rubric. Email is acceptable for a casual coffee or a meal, especially if the invitation itself came by email. For dinner parties, I haven't been invited to a dinner party, like a real fete, in a long time. But for dinner parties, for big favors, for actual gifts, for being a house guest, handwritten is still the gold standard. Weddings always warrant a card. Baby showers, job interviews, also still in card territory. And yes, hiring managers apparently do notice. One survey found that 63% of recruiters said they were more likely to hire someone angling for a higher salary who sent a thank you note than someone who wanted slightly less money but didn't bother. A thank you note is literally worth a salary negotiation. So just sit on that for a minute.
And that's because we're rewarding. Yeah, I guess it's still interesting that you bring up the Victorian thing, but we're saying we're rewarding thank yous.
Yeah.
Like,
Isn't
it's
that
kind
weird?
of like where I at one point got confused, where someone had sent me a thank you note that was really nice, and I started to write a thank you for their nice thank you note, and then I was like,
Yeah.
wait, therein lies madness. We can't just keep
Yeah.
going back and forth and back and forth. That's interesting. Okay.
Thank you notes all the way down.
Yeah.
Timing within 2 weeks, again, is the general guidance. 1 week is better. If you've missed the window, send it anyway.
Anyways.
The late note is always better than no note at all. This is, I think this is something I wish that had been instilled better, because I've got about 42 years of thank you notes just that I feel like I could still get out the door. I want to go back to the origin of the word, right? That the word thank comes from the Old English word for think. Like that's a meaningful insight that I've never considered, right? This is just a kind thought that crossed my mind, or just something I need to let you know I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. It's just, I thought about you. I registered what you did, and this card happens to be the delivery mechanism, or this text, or this email. But the feeling is already there. And the more I think about that, I think the easier it will be to maybe instill a little bit more handwritten effort. I'm going to have to practice the handwriting. People are going to think that I'm just collaging from an insane asylum.
Well, you already touched upon this about maintaining friendships. You actually put a call out to listeners saying, just pick someone, and it can be the hard one, and just say, I'm thinking about you. This actually reminds me of when we were talking about what makes a good house guest. And I was worried about having too many cabinets open. And you said, no, a house guest is the gift of yourself. The gift of opening yourself up and saying, I want to spend time with you. And if the time is just spent being a card, it's the exact same thing. It doesn't matter. It's the method, not the madness. What? But you know what I mean? It's the fact that you're doing it, not what's inside of it. Not how many cabinets are open, or what your E is literally backwards like a cartoon character.
Yeah. I do substitute, because of modern password standards, I substitute like exclamation points for eyes, and the number sign for
you write in
sevens.
lead speak.
Yeah, I write.
Yeah,
I write in lead speak. I handwrite in Markdown. Nobody knows what that is, but I do, and it's really great. People like to have me around at parties.
I think from now on, instead of thank you notes, you should send everyone a vibe code quiz and say, how thankful am I? Very or really a lot? And they have to choose.
Early in the morning, before the sun appears, before the world has even stirred, let's get out of here.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode. This week's tune is Postcard Weather by Low Light. And coming up next week, Pete, what we talk about?
Oh, it's another hodgepodge, another grab bag. Hodgepodge, grab bag. We don't. Yeah.
Goodie bag.
It's a real cornucopia. We're talking about work-life balance and maybe ironically, how to quit your job.
So that's when work-life balance doesn't work and you throw in the towel.
Until then, I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Tommy Metz III. Thank you so much for downloading. We will see all of you next week with All the Feelings, still adulting?
So let's get lost together. Let's go chase that postcard. Wish you were here with her. Let's get lost together. 'Cause if we don't, I know that I won't even last another year. Let's go disappear. far away from here. And let's get lost together. Let's go chase that postcard. Wish you were here with her. Let's get lost together. 'Cause if we don't, I know that I won't even last another year.
It's like when I introduce, when people ask me, oh, your friend Tom, tell me about him. I say, oh, he's somebody who has abdicated any relationship with cozy.
That's how you start.
Yeah. He doesn't like cozy. He hates.
So you just
like,
love ending conversations immediately.
Right. Do you want to know who knows nothing about hygge in Sweden? Tom.
It is true because I don't like being soothed. Anything that's soothing, I don't like it.
Man, God, I will soothe all day. I love soothing. Being
I want
soothed.
everything to be rigid and crunchy and cold as ice. Okay, good.
I'm like the heat miser and you're Mr. Freeze or Mr. Cold.
Does that make us symbiotic or the opposite of symbiotic? It makes us Mother Hubbard and the husband that can eat no lean. No, wait, what? Mother Hubbard lives in a shoe.
Yeah.
Jack Spratt. Jack Spratt and his wife. That's who we are.
Yep. Okay.
But we also live in a shoe. Just as a sidebar. But that's elective.
Would you start this goddamn show?
Okay, here we go.